Okay, when I was doing the movie versus movie, someone actually threw out the idea of Batman Begins versus X-Men Origins Wolverine. Sure, why not? Let's do this. Now, of course, I'm comparing just the movies. This is just Batman Begins versus X-Men Origins Wolverine. I don't think I need to go into a lot of background on these two, but let's get into this. Male lead. So now I'm looking at Christian Bale in his first time out as Batman versus Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. Ironically, Hugh Jackman's Wolverine in the majority of X-Men films is done really, really well. And I think he's actually a really solid actor. In this one, I don't know. He doesn't seem to really be as into it as he is in other movies. If you watch him in any of the other X-Men films, except for the first one, because he's just getting used to the character, he's really into it. In this one, I think since it's his backstory, he felt more kind of aloof. So, I think if you look at Christian Bale's Batman, he did an excellent job. Depending on how far back you go when it comes to your live-action Batman, Christian Bale is either number one or he's probably number two. If he's number two, it's because Michael Keaton did an amazing job. I would love to see him in the third film, but, you know, special effects. There are more special effects in X-Men Origin Wolverine. There's a lot more. I mean, they eventually turned Deadpool into a walking assortment of special effects. But the first time Wolverine pops his claws, and they look horrible. There's more special effects, but they're not as good. Even though, of course, when you look at it, Batman Begins, a lot of it's more of just the physical aspects of things. But when it comes to the times when they use the fear toxin, and they show Batman is almost like a flying, fire-breathing demon. Those are some really good uses of going characters. The budget we have for effects is small. Pick big, impactful moments. Use them then. Female lead. Batman Begins had Katie Holmes in a role that made me so glad that she got replaced. On the other side, you had Silver Fox. She at least felt like she did something, even though she pretty much was like tactile telepathy of, you will do this. You will do this. At least she felt like she did something and she mattered to the plot. Katie Holmes, I never understood the rationale. People get so caught up on her as an actress. She is not good at all. I've yet to see her in a film that made me go, she was excellent. She's just bland. I'm really glad they put someone else in that character role. Villains. Cillian Murphy. See, I said Cillian. I should say Cillian, but I asked somebody in the comments to correct me, so I do learn. Cillian Murphy, Scarecrow. Did a good job. I liked how he had a variation of what they saw in the comic as well as in the cartoon. And that mask, that's almost a horror film style mask, which is great for someone who manipulates fear. Ra's al Ghul or Ra's al Ghul, played by both Kim Watanabe, amazing actor, and Liam Neeson. Two solid, strong villains. X-Men Origin. Good Stryker. Stryker's good. I like Stryker. Stryker's a good character. Good, like Stryker. Liev Schreiber's Sabretooth is just bad. It's so bad. And then Deadpool. The Nightcrawler, Cyclops, Baraka version of Deadpool. who cannot do quips. Deadpool was done so poorly, and this film was done so poorly, that they actually... This is one of the 2 reasons why they did Days of Future Past, where it was like, which ones did do well? X-Men 3. You want to erase it? How do we do that? Time travel. We're X-Men. We can do this. Oh, X-Men Origin Wolverine. Oh, man. Who gave us Gambit? Taylor Hitch? Dude, his box office poison. He's also been put in really poor films. It's like, ugh. I want Deadpool. Ryan Reynolds, awesome as Deadpool. We made him a teleporting optic blast Baraka. And he still his mouth shut. He's the merc with the mouth. Yeah, yeah. You mean a superhero with the sewn lips? Yeah. Why? It's my first day on the job. I don't know what to do with them. Oh. So this also leads into the supporting cast. Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, awesome. The time when he is in regular gear, awesome. And when they showed that they gave him the right script, he did an amazing job. Will.i.am, good job. They did for the Weapon X team, that worked. That worked well. I would have killed for some Maverick though. Freaking love Maverick. Guy's amazing. I would have loved to have done some more with that. But then when they show them getting back together later, and Blob looks horrible, and they butcher so many characters. Now, on the other side, Michael Caine, Gary Oldman, Morgan freaking Freeman. That's your supporting cast. Think of any film you've ever seen. Now throw in Gary Oldman, Michael freaking Caine, and Morgan Freeman. That film was going to be like, did you see that scene where Gary Oldman, Michael Caine, and Morgan Freeman were talking? That scene was amazing. That's just a phenomenal supporting cast. Story. While I can appreciate that they went for Weapon X, the Team Weapon X sort of a backstory to it, and the fact that they used the X as the Roman numeral, and they used that to build more and more stronger characters, I liked that. The introduction of Gambit, I thought kind of worked. They had moments that worked, but the story as a whole does not work. Versus Batman Begins, where they actually showed, it's like, here's the transition of Bruce Wayne to Batman. And it does this moment that I love when origin films build the character and then show you the costume. And then show you the guy fully ready and fully invested. Ironically, the Daredevil film, which the extended version actually is pretty good, began with Ben Affleck in the suit in the middle of essentially the ending, well, second to end fight. And then they go to the background story. Here's how I became where I am right now. And I liked that. Because it's like, here's what's going on. Oh, hey, and now here's your whole backstory. It's a unique way of telling a story that I like, but taking you through the paces, and then boom, and now I'm Batman. Loved that. Money. Here's a weird thing. I'm gonna hit Box Office Mojo real quick because I like the way they do these things. Okay. Now, of course, I'm looking at 2005-2009 film. Here we go. The opening weekend for Batman Begins, 48,000, and some change. So 4 years later, X-Men Origins Wolverine, opening weekend. Ready? 80. Oh, I'm sorry, it's just a million. 85 million. So we're looking at 48 million to 85 million. Opening weekend, Wolverine kills it. It's in more theaters, and the theaters actually make a lot more money. Now, here's where it gets weird. The total gross for Wolverine, again, Box Office Mojo numbers, 47.3% of it is the opening weekend. So that means after it had the great opening weekend, it barely makes more money than that throughout the rest of its domestic life. Batman Begins, 23.7. So that means it had really, really great staying power. Now here we go. Domestic numbers, Wolverine, 179. Batman Begins, 206. Here's where it gets crazy. You ready? Here we go. Worldwide, X-Men Origins Wolverine, 373. Batman Begins, 374. Yes, there's a 4-year difference that you would have to factor in some inflation. But that goes to show you that even though Batman Begins is a really solid film, X-Men Origins Wolverine made some pretty good money. Both these have the same budget, about $150 million. So that's pretty significant if you want to think about the fact that Batman Begins only made $50 million domestically. That's it. That's all it made. $50 million domestically. Just basis off the movies. And it's considered a pretty strong success. X-Men Origins Wolverine made $29 million. Considered a failure. Not the big difference between making 29 and making 50. One's success, one's a failure. Both were not any sequels. Both had very, very good sequels. Some people like to complain about the money of these films. Just remember, those two films were very, very close when it came to money. Music, there's something to be said about Warner Bros. And DC Films nail it when it comes to music. Batman has been blessed with some of the best music you're ever going to hear when it comes to films. The character is dark, mysterious, brooding, and you match that up with almost orchestral, Baroque era, just beautifully pitch perfect for the character. It's not happy, it's not cheery, it's not meant to be. This Batman. This is a man who watched his parents die, who has then spent the remainder of his life to make sure no child has to go through that same scenario ever again. That's not somebody who's going to be like, rainbows and lollipops and unicorns. No, that's not going to be him. He's going to be, it's a sad, brooding character. By extension, Superman, who knows that he's the last survivor of a planet that blew up, I would say he would be brooding, if not more brooding. You're like, hey, I'm the last one. And if someone shows up, hey, you're Kryptonian too? Yeah. Are you a relative of mine? Yeah. Yay. I've got a relative. Of course, non-comics is like, I've got a whole family. Yay. I'm not the only one. I just grew up spending many years thinking it was just me. And then close to comic. X-Men Origins, the Wolverine's Origins, it's a really good story. This again is one of those, like with Green Lantern, where you've got a story that makes sense, it works well, it's easy to understand. You then try to improve upon it, and you butcher it by throwing in so many characters like, well, they'll have spin-offs. Yeah. They did a movie that erased the flow of time to make this work. Versus essentially a variation of Batman Year One with Long Halloween. So, without most people probably being, assuming that Batman Begins vastly superior film to X-Men Origins Wolverine. There are some things that could have been done very well with this, but comparing two different origin films, Batman Begins is just a phenomenal one. Don't even ask me to compare almost any film to The Dark Knight, because that film's fantastic. Now, I have thought about doing the 3 Captain America films versus the 3 Batman films. The issue with that, of course, is it's pretty easy to go, I think Batman Begins is superior to the first Captain America film. If you only get their third films, Dark Knight Rises has got issues, as does Civil War. But for me, out of those two, it really comes down to which one is better between Winter Soldier and The Dark Knight. So I think you've got Batman takes the first one, but for 2 and 3, that's a whole different ballgame.